Hello everyone, today we're going to continue talking about the Pythagorean theorem. So yesterday we said that if a triangle is a right triangle, then we know that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, okay? Today what we're going to look at is the converse of the Pythagorean theorem, okay? So converse is just a word for reversing Pythagorean theorem, okay? So yesterday, the first thing we said that it is a right triangle. Today, the first thing we're going to say is if a squared plus b squared is c squared. If this is true, then we can say that the triangle is a right triangle. Okay, so that's what the converse is. So first we're going to show, or we're going to determine, is this a true statement or not? And if it is, then we're able to say that the triangle is a right triangle. So let's look at some examples of that. So this first one, state if the triangle is a right triangle. So first of all, so we have the formula a squared plus b squared is c squared, okay? What must always be true here is that c must be the longest side. Okay, it doesn't matter which ones I put in for A and B, but C has to be the longest, okay? So I have 4 and 8. I'm going to say that those are my legs, okay? So because they're the shortest, so 4 squared plus 8 squared is equal to, and then 10 is the longest side, so we're going to say 10 squared. So if this is a true statement, then this is a right triangle. So I have 16 plus 64. Okay, that's going to simplify down to 80. Okay, on the other side, 10 squared is 100. So this is not a true statement. So since that's true, not true, this is not a right triangle. Okay, so let's look at another one. All right, so on this one, first thing that we need to do is just figure out what the longest side is. It looks like square root of 70 is the longest, but let's make it a decimal just so that we can see. So I have square root 170, and that's approximately 13.03. So that is definitely my longest side, okay? So I'm going to say that these are my short sides, and this is the hypotenuse, okay? So here I'm going to have 7 squared plus 11 squared is equal to square root of 170 squared. Okay, so now this is going to be 49 plus 121. 49 plus 121, that's going to be 170, okay? Over here, the square root of 170 squared is 170, so that is 170. So that's perfect. This is a right triangle. If it's a true statement, it is a right triangle. If it's not true, then it's not a right triangle, okay? So other properties that we're going to see, Pythagorean theorem can also be used to determine if the triangle is acute, obtuse, or of course, if it's a right triangle, okay? So that longest side that I have right here, c squared, if that is something less than a squared plus b squared, then what we actually have is an acute triangle, okay? So if that thing is smaller than the other two sides squared, it's an acute. If it is bigger, we have an obtuse triangle, and then if it's the same, it's a right triangle, just like we just talked about. So let's kind of use that. So let's take a look at this one, and again, let's figure out where our longest side is. So we have a radical here. Let's figure out what that radical really is. 3 root 19, that's 13.07. Okay, so these are my short sides, and this is my long side, okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to square 3 squared plus 3 root 19 squared, and that equals 14 squared. Okay, so 3 squared is 9 plus 3 root 19 squared. So when I square this 3, I get 9 times 19. Okay, and then that's going to become 9 plus 9 times 19 is going to be 171. If I add those together, I get 180. Okay, now we're going to look at the other one. If I square 14, I believe that is 196. Okay, so going back to our rules, we said if this is bigger, if that longest side is bigger, that makes this an obtuse triangle. And that's what we're looking for there. Okay, here's another one. So again, what is the longest side? It's pretty obvious that it's going to be 13, but let's just double check. I really don't think 4 root 3 is going to be bigger than that. It's really 6.9. So my longest side is definitely 13. So I've got this and this. Those are my short sides, and that's my long side. Okay, so we have 11 squared plus 4 root 3, all of that's being squared, and this is equal to 13 squared. Okay, so 11 squared is going to be 121 plus 4 squared is 16, root 3 squared is 3, and that's equal to 169. Okay, so simplify this. 121 plus 16 times 3 is 48. 121 plus 48 is 169. So that gives me 169 is equal to 169. That tells me that this is a right triangle because those are equal to each other. Okay, here's another one. So we need to again figure out what the biggest side is. So root 256 is 16. Okay, so this side is equal to 16, so that's a whole number. We can use that. Root 241 is 15.5. Since that's rounded, we can't use that, okay? So my longest side is 16, short sides are root 241 and 4. Okay, so I have 4 squared plus root 241 squared, and that's equal to 16 squared. Okay, so 4 squared is 16 plus 241. That's going to be 257. And then 16 squared is going to be 256. Okay, so since that longest side is shorter than the other two sides, this is going to be an acute triangle. And here's another example. Sometimes we're not going to be given the actual triangle, but just the side lengths. But we can see that these two are my shorter sides, and that's my longer side. So here I have 8 squared plus 1.8 squared and that's equal to 8.2 squared. Okay, so 8 squared, that's going to be 64, plus 1.8 squared will be 3.24. If I add those together, 67.24. Okay, and then 8.2 squared is also 67.24. So since these are exactly the same, this is a right triangle. Then one more example. So my two short sides this time are 5.3 and 8. My long side is 8.9. So 5.3 squared plus 8 squared is equal to 8.9 squared. Okay, so 5.3 squared is going to be 28.09 plus 64. If I put those two things together, that's going to be 92.09. Okay, on the other side, 8.9 squared is 79.21. Okay, so since that long side squared is smaller, that makes this an acute triangle. Okay, so be able to use the converse of the Pythagorean theorem, also be able to determine if your triangle is a right triangle, an acute triangle, or an obtuse triangle. So please check out the assignment on Canvas. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day.